Welcome to The Creative Present, a show that's dedicated to expanding your creative self-expression and at the same time, getting your projects done. And I'm your host, Joshua Townsend. We're going to continue to talk about patterns of behavior, patterns of thought, patterns of feelings, and then patterns take up a certain amount of loop time, and the space between the loops and the duration of the actual loop has a huge impact on how we perceive the person, how we perceive the character. And it's really, really fascinating because if we look at these patterns and we open up the pattern to really explore it, to break the pattern, if you will, then we start to see different cycles that occur within the pattern or within the loop. And that's partly why I'm breaking my own patterns to go off and go to a different longitude and a latitude, a different place every day. It's the same thing here as to looking at the character and how much spaciousness the character has. So for instance, in computer games, there's a thing called an NPC, a non-playing character. And what that means is that the people who designed the game made it so that this particular character could not be controlled in the same way a main character could be. So they're assigned very specific behaviors, very specific traits. And so if they're there just to take your order, then they can't be manipulated. They can't be worked with in terms of having options. So all they can say is, can I take your order, and thank you, and would you like fries with that? And what you'll notice is that those characters, those NPCs, they will have very small amount of pattern. So they'll have a pattern of being able to cross their arms or tap their finger or cross their legs, show some sort of thing of hurry up, make a decision. But it's going to be a very small amount of possible behavior, or they're gonna whistle, or they're gonna walk in a circle. Whatever it is, it's going to be a very small loop, and that's important. So a very small loop, then we know they're a non-playing character. And as I started to contemplate on this, I went a little bit further, and I went, okay, so if these characters, the lead characters, are in a certain genre of film, then they too have some kind of limitation. Although the loop, right, the pattern is larger, it still exists. So we still have a tight frame of what's allowed and what's not allowed, what they can express, what they can't express. So what I want to do is I want to open that up. I want to open up the possibility of saying to any character in any genre that there's more discovery, there's more possibility. As soon as I have a situation where things are fixed, a fixed point, and the certain choices have a particular point of view, then we tend to tighten down on it. And I want to go the opposite way. I want to give it more space. I want to give more possibilities. And that's where the arbitrary can come in. But you can also ground it in a reality. Like, for instance, let's say I'm writing the character, a very uptight accountant. And, he's very buttoned down. He's very by the book. All he does is look at spreadsheets and fills in documents all day, every day. So there's going to be a very strong pull to create him in a certain way. So what if all of that is true, but we include that he has a penchant for a certain kind of sock? So he wears colorful socks, or socks that are from Disney movies. Or what if he has a thing for having lollipops after lunch. That's one of his little ways to cut loose. But whatever it is, it's very grounded in his backstory and his reality. And it comes out of a need. It's not arbitrary in terms of just throwing something random at the character. So we actually believe it. I'll give you a couple of examples. There was the general in Apocalypse Now, and he came out and he said, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." Now, he didn't have to do that. His character wouldn't necessarily go outside, take a deep breath, and say something like that. But it's one of the most famous moments in history of film. There's a movie called Blue Velvet. I think it was Dennis Hopper, where he's having some exchange with one of the characters, and he takes an oxygen mask and puts it over his face. Again, a very specific behavior. It's coming out of the need, but it's indelible. It makes an imprint. And the reason why it makes an imprint is because I went outside the parameter of the limitation. Now, on the far extreme, I would say NPC. On the other end of the extreme, I would say it's a tightly held character that is almost moving towards a caricature within a certain reality of a genre. So we really want to open that up, have more possibility, have more opportunities that are grounded in reality for the character. Now, let's talk about one more thing, and this is probably the one that really lights me up and gets me very excited. In terms of loops, characters, as well as human beings, but characters have loops, and in those loops, they go through something that causes a certain emotional life, like anger or pain or frustration or sadness, one of those kinds of emotions. And the reason why it goes through a cycle and it hits that hiccup, it hits that emotional life, is because the cycle never completes. And when the cycle never completes, it creates a loop that's not fulfilled. It's not part of a larger cycle. So it's this self-contained loop that just trips over and over and over like a skip in a record because it can't get past that one thing. And what we want to do as creatives, as artists, as human beings is identify what that is so we can really accentuate it when it comes up for our narratives, for our characters, and then really put them through that ringer to make sure that that aspect is fully explored, fully opened up. The pattern is broken there, right? And then you have chaos because the character doesn't know what to do next because we broke a pattern. And in that chaos comes an opportunity for realignment. And then the character trait can be explored, it can be opened up, and we can go on to the next moment, the next beat. And that's usually towards the end of the narrative, because that includes the character's transformation. So there we go. NPCs, and all of our characters could be an NPC, and I really want us to move away from that. Thank you for listening. If you love what you're listening to, please subscribe and then share with fellow creatives. For more, go to joshuatownsend.com.